Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us on this beautiful day in America. An interesting morning, start to the morning, I should say, for Pete Hegseth and President Trump. Pete Hegseth gathered some of the top members of the U.S. military to the Marine Base in Quantico, Virginia, joined by President Trump, where he addressed the new vision going forward for the U.S. military and all of the top-ranking officials. And boy, was it a barn burner.
Speech today is about people. And it's about culture. The topic today is about the nature of ourselves. Because no plan, no program, no reform, no formation will ultimately succeed unless we have the right people and the right culture at the War Department. If I've learned one core lesson in my 8 months in this job, it's that personnel is policy. Personnel is policy. The best way to take care of troops is to give them good leaders committed to the warfighting culture of the department. Not perfect leaders, good leaders. Competent, qualified, professional, agile, aggressive, innovative, risk-taking, apolitical, faithful to their oath and to the Constitution. Eugene Sledge, in his World War II memoir, wrote, quote, "War is brutish, inglorious, and a terrible waste. Combat leaves an indelible mark on those who are forced to endure it. The only redeeming factors are my comrades' incredible bravery and their devotion to each other." In combat, there are thousands of variables, as I learned in Iraq and Afghanistan, and as so many of you did in so many more places. Leaders can only control about 3 of them. You control how well you're trained, mostly how well you're equipped, and the last variable is how well you lead. After that, you're on your own. Our warfighters are entitled to be led by the best and most capable leaders. That is who we need you all to be.
I don't think that's too much to ask for. Now, Hegseth, just shortly after that, letting them know why they're all there today, went a little bit deeper on what he now expects out of his military and what he wants going forward. It's no longer going to be a military of men dressing like women. It's no longer going to be a military of people who can't pass physical and competency tests. It's now going to be a military that's geared to keep this nation safe, as it was when the military was first formed. Take a listen to Hegseth and his vision for this military.
I don't want my son serving alongside troops who are out of shape, or in combat unit with females who can't meet the same combat arms physical standards as men, or troops who are not fully proficient on their assigned weapons, platform, or task, or under a leader who was the first but not the best. Standards must be uniform, gender neutral, and high. If not, they're not standards. They're just suggestions. Suggestions that get our sons and daughters killed. When it comes to combat arms units, and there are many different stripes across our joint force, the era of politically correct, overly sensitive, don't hurt anyone's feelings leadership ends right now. At every level, either you can meet the standard, either you can do the job, either you are disciplined, fit, and trained, or you are out. And that's why today, at my direction, and this is the first of 10 Department of War directives that are arriving at your commands as we speak and in your inbox. Today, at my direction, each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only. Because this job is life or death. Standards must be met. And not just met, at every level we should seek to exceed the standard, to push the envelope, to compete. It's common sense and core to who we are and what we do. It should be in our DNA. Today at my direction, we are also adding a combat field test for combat arms units that must be executable in any environment at any time and with combat equipment. These tests, they'll look familiar. They'll resemble the Army Expert Physical Fitness Assessment or the Marine Corps Combat Fitness Test. I'm also directing that warfighters in combat jobs execute their service fitness test at a gender-neutral, age-normed male standard scored above 70%. It all starts with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the joint force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our joint force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already, but we're codifying it. And we're not talking like hot yoga and stretching. Real hard PT, either as a unit or as an individual. At every level, from the Joint Chiefs to everyone in this room to the youngest private, leaders set the standard. And so many of you do this already. Active, Guard, and Reserve.
That sounds like a man who wants to get the military in line, a great Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War, whatever we want to call him. I guess it's Secretary of War now is more appropriate. It makes more sense the way that he's getting his guys all lined up. This is what should have been done years ago. President Trump joined Pete Hegseth just moments after his barn burner of a speech to say that we're renewing a focus on defeating threats here in our military. This is the new U.S. military, not the one of Joe and Kamala Harris.
Together with the leaders here today, we're also restoring a needed focus on defeating threats in the Western Hemisphere. Throughout this region, cartel terrorists have been allowed to wage a relentless campaign of death and destruction on our country, all because we had weak leadership on top. And we did a great job with it first term, but this is something else what we're doing now. We're taking it to the next level, probably next level times 3. But we had COVID come up, and we had to take care of that. We did a great job with COVID. We had the therapeutics, it's just Regeneron, so many things we did for COVID. But we had to focus on that, and every other country in the world was being decimated by COVID. So we had to change gear a little bit to take care of that. But under our leadership, the military is now the knife's edge in combating this sinister enemy.
President Trump showing that he's taking this thing just as serious as Pete Hegseth. As it's time now we get a military in order that actually knows how to work, a military in order that really knows how to win. You've often heard the great Lou Dobbs reference, and then me learning from Lou, when was the last war we actually won? We have a bunch of guys who don't really know how to win, and it's not their own fault. It's the fault of their leaders, the fault of their top-ranking officials who were just political pundits, as we saw under the Biden administration, transgenders and people wearing crazy bondage mat, all this crazy stuff that we saw our military traverse into is over. Those days are done. So it's great to see President Trump. It's great to see Pete Hegseth just absolutely overhauling what's been yearning for change for quite some time now. Just in a few hours, the government is set to shut down because of course, the Marxist Democrats. Now, President Trump was asked about it before departing the White House to head to Quantico. Here's what he had to say.
If there is a shutdown, how many federal workers do you plan to lay off?
Well, we may do a lot, and that's only because of the Democrats. And as you know, they want to be able to take care of people that have come into our country illegally, and no system can handle that. And so we're totally opposed on that. But we can't take it. We just can't do it. I'd love to do everybody. I'd love to do the whole world. But our country can't handle people that come into our country illegally. And they want to give them full health care benefits. They want to open the wall again. Can you believe it? I can't even believe it. They want to open the wall. They haven't taken away boys playing in women's sports. They haven't done that. Men playing in women's sports. It's like they don't change. They lost an election in a landslide, and they don't change.
There you have it, President Trump. They don't want to change. This is the Democrat-owned shutdown. Now, in the coming days, it's set to happen this week. Over 100,000 federal employees are expected to resign almost immediately under the Trump administration sweeping deferred resignation program that he had announced that he was bringing in when he came back to office. So that, coupled with these programs that are now in these people who are going to get fired, effectively, or laid off, whatever you want to call it, tonight at 11:59 when the government shuts down, because President Trump's order from the White House is any government program that has not been funded per his administration or the agenda of his administration is to be removed and revisited at a later date to see how they want to move forward with this and how they want to progress. So this is yet again another Democrat-owned shutdown. Now, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer were at the White House yesterday, and nothing more than just a show, as they like to do, in a charade. Nothing new from the Democrats, as we've seen this happening for years. Earlier today, President Trump posted a meme on Truth Social, and it was a funny AI-generated video of Chuck Schumer laying out why the Democrats are so bad and why nobody should ever vote for them again. Well, Hakeem Jeffries took a little bit of offense to it, decided to run to the cameras and do a whole tough guy act. He told President Trump, of course not to his face, he told President Trump behind the cameras, if you've got something to say to me, you say it to my face. Take a listen.
Mr. President, the next time you have something to say about me, don't cop out through a racist and fake AI video. When I'm back in the Oval Office, say it to my face. Say it to my face.
Yeah, Hakeem, nobody's worried about you. Okay, enough with the show trial. It gets a little bit worse than that. Nancy Pelosi was before cameras earlier this morning. Now, I don't know if this was before or after her first morning drink, if she had one today, but take a listen to what she had to say.
In fact, I've listened to their shit, and I tell them to go f themselves. So that's I can't believe I use that word. My kids will be shocked. My grandchildren will be further shocked. I'm just quoting the President of the United States. And so I think
that was early this morning. Like you said, I don't know if she was off the bourbon or tequila or dirty martini or dry. I don't know. But this is Nancy Pelosi for you. Folks, we're going to take a quick break here. Before we go to break, I want to bring you a clip that I saw last night scrolling through Twitter that I thought was absolutely brilliant. As you all know, President Trump has now sent in the military to take over Portland ostensibly because of the mess that they have there, the mess that's been allowed to run by their governor. But I want to bring you this clip from last night of Rachel Maddow and the governor of Portland, because you can't make this stuff up. Here it is.
Yeah, well, thank you. First of all, I want people to know that Portland, Oregon is a beautiful, vibrant, successful city. We are not a war zone. I was out there all weekend long. People were out and about, shopping, going to restaurants, going to soccer matches, going to shows. Portland is a beautiful place, and we are not under siege. There's no insurrection here. When the president makes a choice to say, I should have military troops in my state.
Now, I don't know about you. If you're joining us on audio, I apologize you didn't get to see this, but was that Rachel Maddow with gray hair? To me, there's an awful resemblance there that I just found. I couldn't help myself but to bring that to you guys. But Portland will be made great again. If you live there, I apologize, but you can feel bad for me too. I live in New York, so it's not much better. So it would be sort of hypocritical for me to come out here and make fun of anybody for living in Portland or Chicago, because I live in one of the biggest dumps of them all, and that's New York City. And it's, of course, not the physical aspects of it or physical infrastructure of it. It's the people that run it, just like, you know, everywhere else, California and the rest of them. It's sad that this is what happens when you elect Democrats. So there you have it. Folks, we're going to take a quick break here. On the other side of this quick break, we're going to be joined by my friend, founder and owner and CEO of ClimateDepot.com, Marc Morano. The world is going crazy. President Trump's UN speech last night, Pete Hegseth speech earlier today. We got some more coverage for you there. But the world's going crazy. Donald Trump doesn't care about climate change, global warming. It's all fake. We all know it. But the world's going crazy, at least some of them. But some of the European Union countries are starting to fall in line. Have they woken up? We're going to be joined by Marc Morano on the other side of this quick break, folks. Please stay with us. The Great America Show continues in just moments. If you're joining us on YouTube, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Same for Rumble. We're trying to grow that YouTube channel, so please, if you're joining us on audio, please try to join us each and every night, 6 p.m. Eastern, on Rumble or YouTube, preferably YouTube. We take questions and all that good stuff. So if you can, we really, truly appreciate it. Please be sure to hit that like, follow, and subscribe button. Folks, please stay with us. We're coming right back.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, MyPillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Thanks for staying with us, folks. As I promised, our guest today is Marc Morano, founder and CEO of ClimateDepot.com. Marc, always a delight to have you with us here on the Great America Show. It's good to see you again. It's been some time, but rightfully so. It's usually not good to have you on the show, and the reason being is if we're having you on the show, it means we're having a problem with climate change. So we're having a little problem right now, but it's a good problem. Earlier today, we played for the audience some clips from Pete Hegseth addressing his admirals and really getting a grasp on things over at the Pentagon. We've got another clip that I want to play for you. I don't know if you saw it yet, but here we go. This is Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, or Secretary of War, actually now, talking about climate change and that it's done. He doesn't want to hear about it. He doesn't want his admirals talking about it. None of that woke bullshit. It's all gone.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that shit. I've made it my mission to uproot the obvious distractions that made us less capable and less lethal. That said, the War Department requires the next step. Underneath the woke garbage is a deeper problem, and a more important problem that we are fixing and fixing fast. Common sense is back at the White House, so making the necessary changes is actually pretty straightforward. President Trump expects it. And the litmus test for these changes is pretty simple. Would I want my eldest son, who is 15 years old, eventually joining the types of formations that we are currently wielding? If in any way the answer to that is no, or even yes, but, then we're doing something wrong. Because my son is no more important than any other American citizen who dons the cloth of our nation. He is no more important than your son. All precious souls made in the image and likeness of God. Every parent deserves to know that their son or their daughter that joins our ranks is entering exactly the kind of unit that the Secretary of War would want his son to join.
Marc, I mean, I don't think you could say that any better than the way he had said it. I mean, truly remarkable. The way he made it sound was like our military generals and our military members are out there right now capturing butterflies and putting bags over cows' rear ends to catch the flatulence.
Yeah, I mean, and it is unbelievable. First of all, there's a couple layers there. It's unbelievable that we're excited that a government official is talking like this. This is basically common sense. Dudes in dresses, come on. Yeah. Climate change, come on. Gender delusions, come on. I mean, this is stuff that even 12 years ago would have been common sense. So it's amazing because what he's talking about is this whole culture that began in earnest under President Obama and continued insanely under Joe Biden. The Navy, the Army got into this whole carbon footprint. They got into solar powered vessels. They got into renewable and sustainable weaponry and all. It got to the point where it was a complete distraction. Yeah. And he's absolutely right. I do like the name change, by the way. Department of Defense, especially if you're America First, you think, oh, it's a war. Let's call it what it is. It's a Department of War. When it acts, it's an act of war, regardless of what defense makes it sound like. We're just we're sitting on our shores waiting for someone to attack us all the time. And so I like that. And I like the idea of it's a more lethal. The idea is that you're there to be lethal. It's a deterrent, ultimately. And everything that he was going through, that litmus test, from climate to gender to critical race and all that, were all just distractions. It brings in the sociologists and all the other departments. And this is what tens of millions and billions end up being spent on just utter and complete nonsense. And so it's great that we're back. I also like that he brought all these people together in Quantico. I mean, I actually only live about 50 minutes from the Quantico Marine Base. And that to me, to be, especially in the age post-COVID, I don't think it's been done. It's significant to bring them all physically in a room. And let's not forget, he did say the comment about weight, which I think he even said the fat word, which I think is a little bit insensitive, but that's fascinating because a lot of these guys are older generals. I'm thinking back to Schwarzenegger. What was his name? Schwarzkopf. He was a pretty big guy, but I think he's going to have the one area where I think he's going to have some flexibility. I think especially with generals that are, post 65 and overweight, that's a big battle. But I thought that was humorous part of his speech anyway.
Yeah, it was overall. And he's absolutely right. I mean, about it all. You can't have people physically unfit to serve in our military. It just doesn't work like that. If you want to do that, if you want to be physically unfit, you come to a podcast. I mean, that's sit down all day and you get to do that. But no, I mean, it's things that everyone has been scared to say for the last, I say 10 plus years, that we've been worried. President Trump, before he departed to go meet them, actually, President Trump went over to meet with them, said, he goes, if I don't like any of them, I'm going to fire them. And I think he's probably halfly joking about it, but probably partly serious. But it's got to be that mentality that that you have to be on your feet thinking. You've got to be on your toes at all times, especially when you're a general, especially when you're an admiral. I mean, you have thousands of lives in your hands. That things could go awry at any given moment on the other side of the world. You've got to be thinking on your toes, not chasing butterflies in a friggin' butterfly field, wearing bondage masks like we saw under the Biden administration. I mean, the things we saw, Mark, we had an admiral as a HHS secretary. She wasn't an admiral, whatever the hell she was, Rachel Levine. It really was. It was a guy wearing women's clothes. Then you had the guy
in the dress. That's exactly right.
Right. Then you had the guy at the Department of Energy, Sam something, who was stealing women's clothes out of friggin' Stuka.
Airport.
Mark, the 4 years that we had under Biden were things that you couldn't write into a South Park episode. That's how brazenly absurd they were.
It was. And, we've seen this, of course, across the government, across our culture. I testified in the great state of Pennsylvania at their Environmental Protection Agency about their climate regulations. And this was, I did multiple times. But when you fill out the forms, they ask you your gender pronouns. I mean, it's the state of Pennsylvania, official government documents. It's seeped everywhere. And I hope they're fighting back. I don't know if Pennsylvania's updated it. This was about 2 years ago, but it creeped into every aspect of our life. I do want to say one thing. I want to take credit for this because I met Pete Hegseth. I was a regular on Fox and Friends Weekend when he was the guest host. He's interviewed me many times. He, in his book, I think it was his 2021 book, cited me and when he talked about climate change and quoted me from my interviews with him on Fox and Friends. So based on that, I'm going to call myself the unofficial Pentagon climate advisor. So I'm going to take some credit for his speech today.
Going back to the male thing, Mark, the male-female thing, it's so funny. I tell everyone, it was brought to my attention, go to Netflix.com and apply for a job there. And look at the questions they ask you on a job application. I just invite everyone to go do it.
I've never done that. Yeah,
Mark, it's absolutely
show.
They ask you who you're sleeping with, what's there, and when they ask you what your sexuality is, Mark, there's things that I've never heard of before. It's like usually it's like straight, gay. First of all, they shouldn't be asking it, right? Doesn't matter. Yeah. But they ask you straight, gay, and then it's just like 10 more things of like crap that I've never heard of before. They ask you your gender. And then they give you like 15 genders. I've got bad news for those folks. It's XX or XY. You can't change a chromosome, a makeup. You just can't do it.
Well, which brings it, we're getting off topic, but Netflix is probably the worst with this. They have such talent, such great actors.
Oh, they do a great job.
Their shows are great,
Excellent.
But they all have the stupid, they always have to have the character, whether it's a gay couple or something transgender. And it's not just that. They go beyond that. It's usually the white heterosexual, which is the screwed up, evil, bad ones. And it's like in almost every show. And it gets obnoxious after a while. Like the one show where they just sort of have it without that. It's almost like they can't help themselves. But it's incredible because they do have a lot of talent and it is entertaining, but they have to put in those little social and political agendas.
Yeah, they do. Before we get back on topic, they do. Their documentaries are among the best.
Yeah,
I mean, they do a terrific.
They know
job.
Their craft. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
But to the other people's credits, most of those, I watch a lot of documentaries. I don't really watch much TV or movies or series, but their documentaries, most of them are produced from the outside and then sold to Netflix. So that's why usually when you watch the documentaries, one of the best documentaries I've ever seen is American Conspiracies: The Octopus Murders. On Netflix. I recommend it to everyone. We had the guy on the show, the executive producer and the director. Really, really great show about how corrupt our government was back in the early 2000s till now. Really recommend it. Going back, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
I was going to say, I think for modern history and the McDonald's history version here, really our world changed by our response to 9/11, turning us into a surveillance state. The bank bailout of 2008, basically enriching the ruling class and all that. And then COVID lockdowns. Those three things have changed America to the point where you can look back and say America 2000, September 10th, 2001 was a much better place than anything that occurred after. It really was. And I feel bad for kids today growing up in this three event America that destroyed us. And I don't blame the events. I'm not blaming the terrorists. I'm not blaming a virus. I'm blaming our response to all of that.
Yeah, I did a huge monologue on it last night's show, probably a 20-minute monologue about how, we can't trust our government anymore. And it really, for me, Mark, it started, and I won't rehash this. I'll just say this to you and we'll move on. But it really started for me in 2016 when they started going after Trump with the Russia, and then progressed into Ukraine. And then it turned into 2 impeachments. And and then at the end of the day, we all find out that, none of it was true. The whole thing was made up. You said, well, hold on, there seems to be some sort of conspiracy here, and it's being run by the American government. Then you go into 2020 when the presidential election was stolen from President Trump. And you say, well, you know what? Did we really put a man on the moon? Who really killed JFK? Was 9/11 some sort of job that was, known by America before it happened? I mean, I bring this guy, Tony Shaffer, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, on the show a lot. And he was working on Operation Able Danger. It's another thing you can look up, where in January of 2001, before 9/11 happened, he was working on a project for the Department of Defense to see what cells infiltrated America. He comes back to the Defense Department and says, listen, we believe this, and this is going to happen. Tony, you're fired. Bang. 6 months later, 9/11 happened. So it wasn't until 2016 to 2020 that I really started questioning our government, and I think everyone else should. The banking bailout, which you brought up, is an absolutely good point. And I attribute this banking bailout to some of the problems we're having now, namely Boeing. Boeing is having so many issues with their aircrafts. They can't even get together the presidential aircraft that he had to get one from Qatar. That's how desperate we are. But when you think about it on its face, Why does Boeing have to answer anybody? They know that the United States government's never going to let them fail, right? It's the only airplane manufacturer in America. So, of course, the U.S. government's never going to let them fail. They'll get a bailout whenever they need. And that's the culture that was created in 2008, Mark.
There was. And you mentioned, it could keep going. I mentioned the top three, but you mentioned even the social media. It's 2016. I mean, censorship. All of that, and then all the woke stuff came along line. And I think if you look back at the history of that, Bill Gates through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and what's his name, the big finance guy from billionaire fund. My mind's blanking out on his name, but billionaire funding to school kits, gender identity kits. This was backed by the highest billionaire, Warren Buffett. Sorry, that's right. I was about to say Berkshire Hathaway, but through Bill Gates Foundation, Bill Gates credits Warren Buffett with this funding. And this was all the gender identity, critical race. So this all began around, 2010. And the idea was just to start separating Americans. This is, I think, a legacy of that bank bailout. If we fight amongst ourselves, we're not going to be paying attention to what the elite do and the ruling class and the banking industry. And of course, that's where you have equity asset today, increasingly buying up residential real estate. You have the American farmland. China was the number one owner, followed closely by Jeff Bezos, and followed closely by a couple other billionaires, including, the other billionaire, Richard Branson was another one. It's amazing. You think these people have no interest in farming, but yet here they are buying up farmland. And you find out the goal has to do with climate as well, because Bill Gates' stated goal, and I don't know if he's still number one on farmland. This was a couple years ago when NBC.
He is.
Well, his goal, and as he told MIT Technology Review, was to get Americans to stop eating cows and then move us to synthetic beef. And this is beyond just, the vegetable oil process. This is the lab-grown meat made in a lab from stem cells from a cow pig, mixed in with fetal blood, put into a steel vat, eventually printed on a 3D printer, makes the pink goo from chicken McNuggets look slimy, look disgusting, look appetizing. And so this is where you find out what's behind all of these things. I think we need I'd love to see Teddy Roosevelt style sort of break up big tech. I'd love to see getting money out of campaigns, financing. We got to stop allowing billionaires to buy candidates and these foundations. I mean, there's so many different reforms that I just don't know that are possible. I think a MAGA 2.0 has to start looking at a lot of this. Because this is where, in order for things to really change, I really think we've been hijacked. Our entire democracy has been hijacked by the billionaire class. And if you look at it, even it was a 1996 telecommunications bill. I can't remember the number, but like 100 plus companies. And then they consolidated down to around 30 that own it all, or maybe even 15, to the point where the entire, media stream is owned by just a few wealthy. It's
the same thing with everything, Mark. I think the chicken industry is owned by 3 or 4 companies. You got Brazil, you've got Tyson,
and that's where I think equity asset reform has to come in. And I think again these are very difficult to talk about because every candidate is going to be getting money from them, and supporters are going to be there, and people. So it's going to be it's a big ask, but I think it's something we have to start getting on the agenda. And I'm not an expert in that, but I'm just saying, looking at this and looking at it historically, we've got to break this stranglehold. Some people call it late stage capitalism. I don't want to be accused of being Bernie Sanders here, but there's a lot of truth. If you look at even what's the Cracker Barrel. Even the whole idea of making that generic is an equity asset dream, because if you look at all the buildings now, all the buildings are the same. They have to be, because a KFC and a Dunkin' have to all be interchangeable. You can't even have a distinct building anymore because it cuts into that profit margin. It really goes back 1980s, GE, Jack Welch, the chairman, sort of shifted the corporate ethic into just short-term profits, and that's when you had all the overseas jobs and just whatever it took to make money, and somehow that was going to benefit the American consumer as they hollowed out our industrial base, which then was not only was it the short-term profit, but there was free trade and then later immigration. So it's been a long ride of America that's been just destructive, and we need to reclaim it. Trump is making a lot of they're actually working on the equity asset and real estate, buying up that. They're working on farm reforms, trying to prevent China from buying up land. But I think we're going to need a lot more going forward.
Everything he said falls into the category of what you see in North Korea, which is what the Democrats want us in. Everything looks the same. Everything's built the same. The structure's all the same. And that's the corporate global homo ESG model that these people have now, believe it or not, Mark, some of these corporations pay millions of dollars for some idiots, some millennial idiots, to come in and say, well, this one looks better than that one. And I mean, they both look like total crap. And, you know, they bring them in and the whole thing is just this massive conglomerate who everyone's getting kickbacks on kickbacks. And, you know, we sell you this and then we sell you the builder and the whole thing. That's just how corporate America now has come. If it's not broken, don't fix it. I mean, that's like the most simple, easy thing to understand. Joe Biden, Donald Trump gave you a great border. Don't fix it. Don't change a damn thing, and you wouldn't have had this issue. I mean, very, very simple. I want to go back to the UN that you mentioned, President Trump, who took aim at, I mean, just every single world leader there. Let's take a listen in on a short clip of President Trump last week.
Global warming, not happening. You know, it used to be global cooling. If you look back years ago in the 1920s and the 1930s, they said, global cooling will kill the world. We have to do something. Then they said global warming will kill the world. But then it started getting cooler. So now they could just call it climate change because that way they can't miss. It's climate change. Because if it goes higher or lower, whatever the hell happens, there's climate change. It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. Climate change, no matter what happens, you're involved in that. No more global warming, no more global cooling. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong. They were made by stupid people that have cost their countries fortunes and given those same countries no chance for success. If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail.
It's nice to hear a world leader sit on the United Nations and call people idiots and stupid because it's refreshing. And people might say, well, it's not presidential and it's not polite to do so. Mark, I hate to break it to these people, but being polite and being politically correct gets you into the mess and the situation wherein top to bottom, eating synthetic bugs, whatever the hell you want to say. I mean, being politically correct has got us into this situation that we're in right now.
It has, and that is by far. I can't think of any other speech, at least in my lifetime, to the United Nations. It is the greatest speech to the United Nations by a U.S. president. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking.
Hey Mark, real quick,
even
that beat out his last speech. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sure. And this all came after they shut off his teleprompter and broke the escalator on him.
Yes, they tried to throw. I don't know. Who knows? But it was, they had a sense. We had a sense. I was on Fox the day before, and I said, "Wait till you hear Donald Trump's speech. It's going to be epic." Because I'd heard chatter, and he gave a similar type speech, not as comprehensive, to the World Economic Forum. It was like 2018. Where he went off on the entire globalist agenda. And he said that this is like fortune tellers on a boardwalk with your climate predictions. I mean, so he had it in him. Now, I will say it wasn't necessarily the greatest delivered speech, but I mean, in terms of content and what he said and his bull, it was incredible.
Well, that matters.
And it does. What he said was so important because if you look at the history of changing culture, changing hearts and minds. This is what Charlie Kirk was all about, taking it to face. You can't demonize your enemy you can demonize them if you're online, but if you're face to face on a college campus, he knew he could change hearts and minds and he could debate people and make them think and create a better environment. Well, what Donald Trump did is he flipped the narrative face to face with the UN. And why this is so important is Americans need to hear their president calling it a con, a cult, a religion, a hoax. It's so important. 15 years ago, the president of the Czech Republic was a guy named Václav Klaus. And they did a survey. This is like 2010 Of all the countries in Europe, including Eastern Europe, the Czech Republic had the most highly skeptical population of climate change. Why? And the actual poll credited it with the fact that their president was an outspoken climate skeptic. He went to the UN, he condemned the climate hoax, he wrote a book on it, he gave speeches on it, he refused to get their country involved. That has an impact. People start realizing it. And by Trump flipping this narrative, he did something that George H.W. Bush couldn't do, that Bob Dole, if he had elected, couldn't do, that George W. Bush wouldn't do, that John McCain wouldn't do, that Mitt Romney wouldn't do. He flipped the narrative and came out there to their face and said no. And he also made it a safe haven for other leaders. Remember, I was at COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, sandwiched between Iran and the Soviet Union. I actually thought of going over the Iranian border after midnight one night to check out if they actually did have the nuclear weapons and where they were stored, but it's not better of it, especially since I was in a authoritarian oligarch nation. It would have been hard to get back in. But anyway, and so what happened was at that summit is that the head of Argentina, Milei, the president, called Trump, and Trump said, "What the hell? You have your people there. Get them out of there." He hangs up the phone with Trump and pulls out his 100+ delegation from Argentina. And then the French foreign environmental minister didn't show up. And then the host of the COP30, this is right after Trump's election, like a week after he's elected in America. In last November, they said oil was a gift from God, and then heads started exploding. Al Gore started demanding that only people who agree with the UN agenda. And by the way, Al Gore is getting his way. I just signed up for COP30, the next UN climate summit. It's coming in this November, begins November 10th. They have a pledge on there. It's right now, it's voluntary, but I've never seen it in 30 years of climate summits. You can pledge your allegiance to the United Nations climate goals and sustainable development. They have a box, and then your name will be on a list. And they're trying to weed out anyone, and I'll be marked because I didn't check the box, and any world leader or any environmental minister or any politician or any businessman who does, in order to get your credentials, you have to say whether you're with them or you're not answering. This is their way of weeding people out. And by the way, they're also woke stuff at the UN. This happened beginning last year and now this year. I only get one day attending at the United Nations where they're allowing me in the conference because they're saying that white, wealthy Western nations, essentially the developed West, has taken advantage of UN summits. So they're making it a priority for Africa, South America, Asian people of color in order for them to have better access. So they've restricted us to travel halfway around the world to go, and you get one day to attend. There's still a lot of other things you can attend and side events, but they get into the actual delegation one day, and that's because of reparations. They're doing their own form of reparations at the UN, and you have to pledge your loyalty. But Donald Trump has created this whole new paranoia because the Trump effect is real. It's powerful. We just saw the new German president, who's a climate skeptic, go after Ursula von der Leyen, the most evil woman on the world. I guess people call her Cruella de Vil. And
there you go.
They're going after her and mocking her on climate. There's a lot of hope. They've halted their Green Deal. They had major elections. You had the farmers' revolt. They're following Trump's footsteps. The first act in Canada of Marc Carney, the former central bank head of Canada and Bank of England and Canada, World Economic Forum, his first act, one of his very first acts, was to zero out the carbon tax in Canada. This is how the Trump effect globally. It's the Trump effect, which is a result of the fact that we've been lied to for 20 years. And now Europe is realizing it, that solar and wind aren't cheaper. They're not taking over. EVs made no sense. All they were doing was gutting all the European auto industry and making China the sole global dominant car maker. All of this was like a moment of clarity that Donald Trump, and you said it, John, he speaks bluntly. And that's what it's like the moment of clarity, you're getting hit on the head with a sledgehammer by Donald Trump. But it's also because you've been living this for decades and all the lies, and they can't hold the lies together anymore. The fastest growing energy is solar. What does that even mean? Yeah. It's still combined like less than 4% of U.S. energy and less than 15% of our electrical grid. But it's the fastest growing energy. If you stack penny on top of penny, you can be amazed at how many more pennies you have. You went from 2 pennies to 8 pennies, and you're like, "Oh, look at that! We quadrupled the number of pennies." It doesn't mean it's providing energy anyway. And there's also the lie of any of it being green. And Donald Trump, his administration has been really good at that. Just to finish this, his Lee Zeldin, EPA chief, most consequential EPA chief in the agency's history, going back to Richard Nixon forming the agency in 1970s. 1971, I believe, and right after Earth Day, the first Earth Day, and then you have Secretary Wright, who commissioned the Department of Energy Climate. I call it the Consensus Buster Report. Top scientists from around the world, Georgia Tech, former NASA scientists, got together and they created a report that literally was the first official pushback anywhere in the world to the United Nations climate reports that began in 1990. We now have an official government pushback from the U.S. It's an incredible report. It goes through about the CO2 fertilization, how there's no increase in extreme weather, how there's no climate crisis, no climate emergency. And of course, the left went after that, lawsuits. They got them on a technicality. They're forced to disband the group, but the report still stands. But those two cabinet members, Chris Wright and Lee Zeldin, have been phenomenal, energy and EPA respectively. It's been unbelievable how consequential, and their goal is to go for the permanence angle. And we can talk about that in a minute, just how to make it difficult for future president to undo what Trump's doing.
Yeah. I do want to get to that.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
I got to give credit where credit's due. The Europeans don't do, in fact, many things better than America, but they're European farmers. Those people are absolutely. When it comes to protesting, Mark, those guys are. I think in the Netherlands, they drive their tractors on the highway, and they throw manure on the Parliament buildings to let them know you guys aren't coming in here and doing that nonsense. They're speaking up and they're making a difference because their leaders are going to have to start eventually standing up and say, this is enough is enough. I mean, this is absolute BS. Going back to President Trump and what he's setting on the world stage, I don't know if you saw this. This is out this week. The Energy Department is telling its employees not to use the words including climate change and anything green. I think that's just, people may joke and laugh about it, but I think it's a step in the right direction to let everyone know. Emissions is actually another one that's being added to the list. To let them know, we're done with this. It's BS. It's a money grab operation.
Let's call it what they are, John. And this was in Politico. They obtained an email, like this big scandal.
Yeah.
These were climate pronouns. There's no other way to put it. The word green, nothing's green. It's all a total lie, just like a biological lie, because make one Tesla battery. It takes 500,000 pounds of material to be dug up from the earth, chiefly in China, transported on diesel ships, brought to America, assembled, and then shipped on a diesel truck.
Wait, they don't ship them over on sailboats?
No, they don't. So they also are banning the words decarbonization, carbon footprint. These are the climate pronouns of the left. They are meaningless phrases. They're not scientifically accurate. And there's no reason for our Department of Energy to be even using these climate nonsense phrases. And I think it's great. Now, they're trying to make it into a scandal, but it's exactly right. It's not the goals of this administration. It's not who the people voted for. Why do we want to talk about the carbon footprint? It's still the straight. I was buying a ticket on, I think it was United Airlines, and every time you order on Amazon, it tells you your emissions and output. You can leave it on Amazon. You can wait a day, to lower your carbon footprint. Yeah. People don't care about that. The airline executives have talked about that. It's absurd. And even you sit on a plane, you have to sit through our emissions and our offsetting. They do the little videos. It's just crap. Climate pronouns.
Well, you and I have talked about this. I think it's on United, actually, which I try not to fly. I'm a Delta guy. On the napkins, it says carbon emission free or net zero by 2030 or 24. It's not possible. The amount of jet fuel that you burn a day, you cannot plant that many trees, Mark, in 10 lifetimes to ever offset your carbon with anything. Oh, so maybe you get your ground vehicles and your tugs electric. you're still not offsetting the thousands of
yes.
pounds of fuel that you burn an hour on an aircraft. I mean, come on. Who are you lying to?
Yeah, and that whole thing, that's the carbon, that's carbon capture. That's how they can claim we're carbon.
Mercedes, Mark, they said they were going to be fully electric by 2040. And then I think someone came in smart and said, hey, idiots, there's no possible way that we're going to do this. Not everyone wants an electric car. They're garbage.
They're impractical garbage. They're not green. I didn't even get finished the whole thing. I mean, not only do you have to do the 500,000 pounds of material, but then you bring it over and then you ship it, you plan, install it, and then you got to recharge them on a fossil fuel grid. I'm sorry, where was the green aspect of it in any step of that? And then, of course, you have solar and wind. You take cement, concrete, non-recyclable plastic, tons of all this all thrown in. And then there are huge recycling problems, aside from the fact they impact species and whales and birds. And aside from the fact that they don't produce meaningful energy in America, despite billions heading into trillions of subsidies and banning their competition. It's just, that's why the Trump speech was so phenomenal in front of the UN. And that's why I love this, what the Energy Department's doing. My only complaint is the Energy Department should have announced it head on instead of an email to employees. They should have led with this. It's so awesome.
The funniest part about the whole Elon Musk thing with the fallout with Trump was you've got all these liberals who were presumably driving his cars before, mostly liberals who are in favor of the green energy deal. Now, I don't think electric's practical for cars. I don't agree with it. I think it's absolutely stupid. But if you want to do it, this is America, Mark. You're allowed to go buy whatever you want. Yes. If you want to be stuck out in the middle of the winter, because everyone knows a battery drains in the middle of the winter in the Northeast, and you want your car to be draining at an unreasonable rate, fine, go ahead and go do it. The whole Elon thing was like hysterical because all these people, and I'm talking about when Elon first endorsed Trump, they got to go sell their Teslas now because they thought they were, helping the environment to go buy whatever kind of.
They were for Teslas before they were against them, and
now they're for them again because Elon. It's the whole hypocrisy of it all.
Keep in mind that officially ends end of this month, September 3rd. Well, I guess it's today. It's September 3rd. They were taping this. September 30th is the day of this $7,500 tax credit. And just so you know, it was a tax credit. This was a transfer, very simply, of poor to wealthy, because who's buying electric cars? Average cost is over $55,000 for anything electric, and that's being generous low with the average. Yeah, that's being a little low when you consider what some of these people are buying. Only 7% of the population bought it. So you have the 93% of the population subsidizing the wealthier 7% who bought these electric cars. Yeah. They get to avoid toll lanes. They get to ride around free because they're saving the planet in their cars, and you get all that, the tax credits. And so this is all coming to an end. And now you're going to have automakers just, they're going to be fleeing en masse, because if you can only, with all that as advantages, banning the competition, banning gas powered cars was on the books. And now they could only get 7% of sales for all electric. And now all their incentives are gone and all the mandates and bans are gone. You can imagine you're going to see a lot of electric cars disappearing. And to Elon's discredit, Tesla is begging the Trump administration to keep the climate goals and to keep all this in place, which is, of course, their own business interests. But at the same time, I believe I'm saying that Elon Musk is going to run for president. I'm sorry, I'm not voting for him.
Well, he can't. He's not a born U.S. citizen.
Well, let me rephrase it. Yeah, you're right. He's going to be planning a presidential party with a hand-picked candidate and all that. I see it as what Bernie Sanders. He'll be the true oligarch party if he does.
Yeah, I think he actually backed off that and said he would look at endorsing JD Vance. Nobody beats Donald Trump. I hate to break it to anyone. You can try. You can spend all the money you want, but you're only giving people money to the wrong people. Mark, before we wrap, I want to get to something that just adds, I guess, insult to injury. It's like the sprinkles on top of an ice cream sundae. President Trump's administration is now investing $625 million in the U.S. coal industry. I mean, this is a slap in the face to every single, Marxist Democrat who wants us on electric or, whatever they want us on, wind-powered cars or, whatever. It's an absolute smack in the face.
China, by the way, who did this big, right after Trump's speech to the UN, came out and increased their climate pledges. CNN called it a consequential climate move, and the UN are all so happy. They had their hero, China, Xi Jinping. They had the villain, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
China's building, on average, 2 coal plants a week, 100 a year. They have the more coal plants. They have 53% of the world's coal plants. They're the world's number one emitter of carbon dioxide. And now Trump is just looking at everything I just told you, which are all ironclad facts. And he's saying, we've got to get America back. And so coal is the most strategic, i.e. national security enhancing energy source you can use because it's quick, it's affordable, and it's plentiful. And that's what Donald Trump is trying to go back to. In earnest, there's two factors that brought America coal down. One of them was the fracking revolution, which is technology, which no one has a problem with because people switched from coal to natural gas fracking because it was cheaper and more efficient. That's great. But then you had the Obama administration, 8 years of making a war on coal. And at one point you had Gina McCarthy, his EPA chief, denying on camera, and I can't remember who the interview with. It was like with Politico or maybe at CBS, where she was saying, there's no war on coal in this administration. And behind her, she had a sign that said, fight the war on coal. We had behind her in the background on her wall. They had literally gutted the American, what was left of that coal industry. And so Trump is resurrecting. The question is, I don't know if we'll ever go back to the glory of where we were, but anything we can do at this point to help. We are facing, couple of key things. Summer 2025, Donald Trump had done 200 actions to increase American energy in 200 days. We now, by the end of August, we had the highest ever oil and gas production ever since George Washington was president. Now, it's a silly stat because we didn't have it. But it's still a factual statement. So Donald Trump, because of his policies in the first 200 days, the highest we've ever had. And gas was the lowest it had been in 5 years, right before COVID. Right after COVID. So the only negative on this horizon, and this is what I think Donald Trump is now doing with the coal plant move, is because of AI, and because of the baked in. Remember, I'm in the state of Virginia, California, Maryland, Massachusetts, Oregon, Washington. All these states still have state policies that are restricting energy and solar and wind and inefficient energy. Yeah. So we are facing a electrical grid problem where prices are going up 10, 15%. I know in Virginia they've gone up, and that's not only from that lack of energy and all the policies we had, but also because of the AI data center demand, which is draining. So we need energy. We need it now. And the best part about AI is that it forced Larry Fink of BlackRock, the man who said we have to force behaviors, the man who's been the biggest climate advocate, to actually say in April of 2023 that AI is not going to be powered by solar and wind because it's intermittent. It only works. It's not base load. Blah, blah, blah. It went on and just basically condemned it, which is like, that's what we've been saying for decades. Yeah. And now you admit it because you want power. And so this is why you now have Zuckerberg and Bill Gates looking at buying or leasing nuclear plants. So that's the big bright spot of AI, is that it's literally just cut the bullshit from the energy debate. Even the most ardent people are no longer, solar and wind. They're just like, yeah, that's not going to work. And they moved on. Yeah.
It's nice to see, Mark. It's nice to see all of this happening and coming around full circle from where we were.
I never thought I'd see this in my life. My issue, climate, energy, environment, it's just blown my mind.
Yeah.
Again, Trump 2.0 blows away Trump 1.0 on every facet. And just to finish this out, the permanence. They're going after the CO2 endangerment finding, which Obama did and Biden kept. And it's a big mess. I mean, Trump just can't come in and get rid of it. Yeah. You got to go through multiple steps. You have to have scientific review. You got to have court cases. But the idea is they regulate carbon dioxide. Remember, we inhale oxygen. We exhale carbon dioxide as a pollutant under the Clean Air Act, which it was never designed to be. Second, so they're trying to overturn that, which is going to take a couple of years. But if they do it, very difficult to get us back in this climate agenda. Secondly, they're going after withdrawing us from the UN Climate Convention on Framework that basically George H.W. Bush got us into at the 1992 Rio Earth Summit. If they pull us out of the framework, then it's going to take, with that treaty, the Rio Earth Summit Treaty was ratified by the Senate back in 92. And now, according to legal analysts, if Trump can pull us out of the framework, you would need a new treaty that have to be ratified to ever get us back involved in things like the UN Paris Agreement. That's music to our ears. And so those two things would give us a permanence agenda. So if a President Gavin Newsom or a President AOC wanted to just do a complete 180 on what Trump's done, they would have years of difficulty trying to set all that back up. That's what we have to cheer for. because we don't want a repeat of Trump 1.0 when it comes to these policies. It was good, but it didn't have time. And basically Biden was able to undo most of what Trump did in 3 or 4 months just because of the way we need permanence. And by the way, to give one unusual call out to the GOP Congress, they did step up. They came after the Congressional Review Act in the summer of 2025, and they got rid of the California mandate, which allowed California to dictate national auto policy and fuel economy and gas-powered car bans in all the states. So that was a huge move that we had there. So there's just been it's all good news in my world. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. And like you said, it's got to be made permanent for any real meaningful impact on.
Right, because I'm tired of yin yang. That's where we are. Bush, Obama, Biden, Trump. I mean, we need constancy here, and we can never go back. I'd like to see them get rid of the corporate average fuel economy standards. They have to start loosening some of the emission standards. I'd like cars to be simplified again to where you don't need, it's not a throwaway culture, and you don't have mechanic just, let's replace this, replace that. That really only happened, if you go back in time, it wasn't until about year 2000 that things got out of control automotively in that sense. Now, I'm not saying cars haven't improved in a lot of ways, but if you go back, there's a golden era of American cars, and there was the age of V8s and cheap gas was the late 90s and the early 2000s. Those engines last. They're easy to work on in your own garage. They don't
smell great.
Complete replacement. Yeah. And so that's what I'd like to just see these continued to be loosened.
Yeah. Get rid of catalytic converters in cars. We want to smell the gas again.
There's probably technology. There's probably a whole new way to do this. But again, it's all in order. Every Democrat administration wants to appear to be cleaning the environment more, tightening restrictions. You could roll these things back 40% and probably have the same exact air quality. We're talking now about air quality. We're not talking about climate. Yeah. And I think what it is they go from parts per million, parts per billion. They just want to appear. So that virtue signaling ends up having a real cost. And if you look at their projections, like if Biden had been reelected, they were going for unbelievable 55-mile-an-hour corporate average fuel economy, gas-powered car, just insane stuff, emission standards. It would have just gutted what was left of American cars and would have been Chinese EVs taking over. It's just incredible that people don't see the obvious with all this. Yeah.
I went from driving a nice, beautiful German sports car that burned a crap ton of fuel to now driving a lifted up Jeep Wrangler. Mark, when I bought the car, I originally bought it and I didn't realize I went to the dealership, I bought it and it was coming in, we're getting ready tomorrow, the next day. And I realized I'd bought in a 4-cylinder Jeep Wrangler. I called the dealership. I said, you go find me something that's got a bigger engine than this. I don't want this piece of garbage. It's like a 4-cylinder. This is the turbo 4-cylinder, which I'd be very hesitant. Turbo's great if you own the car 3 or 4 years or less. Yeah. Anything over that, I would not want to own a turbo. I've owned boats and jet skis, and I know exactly how the turbo system works. My last car, it starts to go, and it ain't cheap to fix it. But no, for people who buy cars every 1 or 2 years and switch them, turbos are great, right? That's not me. I buy them, I run them, and by the way, I own a Jeep Wrangler too, but I refused to buy the new Stellantis. I bought the JK, which I got a 2017. I got the highest gear rate. Well, I guess you'd say the highest, but the low gear ratio. I got a 410 gear ratio from the factory. And I got manual transmission. I refused to give me an automatic. So I had to what I was looking for, there were like 3 Jeep Wranglers across the country looking at CarMax. They were even qualified. And I was finally able to get it, but it's awesome. Love it. I do have the Pentastar 3.6 Chrysler engine, which is not horrendous, but it's got a lot of, it's called VVT with the valve train. And so it requires like complete disassembly for spark plugs and simple things, but it's amazing. And I think so I try to drive old school. I'm driving around in so I have high revs even on the highway. The gear ratio, people don't realize that when they buy, especially an SUV. Just a quick lesson here. To make it maximize, if you look at all the car buying guides at YouTube, they're almost all missing one of the key things for performance. It's not about what engine you pick. It's about what gear ratio. And they're not going to mention that on any car buying guide. You want a high gear ratio, 410, 456.
because if you're ever going to put on big tires, it matters too. The idea is it's every time you shift gears, your engine's going to start, your revolutions in your engine are going to be at a higher gear, give you more power throughout the entire power band. People don't realize that. They'll buy a Jeep Wrangler with 321 gears and it's like a dog, and they're like, oh, no, you bought the wrong one. And then you have to pay $4,000 to have it re-geared, or, so anyway, we're getting on a rant here about this, but this is, people, there's ways to defeat the system is what I'm getting at here. So
that's you named it exactly. I do got these big 40-inch tires on it, and I get like maybe 12 miles a gallon, and I get on the phone. I'll take a business call in the car, Mark, and they'll say to me, "What the tires here?" And everyone's going, where are you? You're like at an airport. I'm like, no, I'm in my Wrangler, and the top is on and the windows are closed. I'll call you when I get to where I'm going.
By the way, I don't want to give the name of their thing, but there's an earpiece you can get that people who do construction work, they can do sit there and build highways. It's unbelievable sounds. I can go with no doors, no top, 65, and talk to people, and they can hear me just fine. It might sound a little bit wonky because the high thing, but anyway, there's ways around that. But anyway, we're getting
Marc Morano.
Auto stop start is another thing. You can defeat that. You can get little gadgets to defeat that. That's something the Trump administration is getting rid of too. We can't. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. But thank you.
That's one of the worst things that's ever been developed on a car, and thank God they're getting rid of it. It is so stupid. Yeah, let's save 0.0001 parts per million, but you'll need a new engine in 2 years because we've restarted.
A new starter. There's an accounting trick by the Obama administration to get better fuel economy, and they incentivized car makers to put it in all their cars. Now, a lot of people may not know what we're talking about. If you haven't had a car with one, a lot of American cars seem to have it more than foreign, but it's I've talked to so many mechanics, Fisher Auto Body, GM, they loathe those things.
Yeah, anyway. Absolutely idiotic. Marc Morano. The website is climatedepot.com, climatedepot.com. You can go every single day. He's got new articles up on the war against us all who don't want to drive electric cars. Marc Morano, we'll talk to you soon, my friend. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks to Marc Morano, folks, and thank you all for being with us today here on The Great America Show. We'll see you back here tomorrow for The Great America Show. Truth, justice, and the American way will be the topic, as it usually is. Same time, same place tomorrow. Until then, may God bless you. May God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. Have a great night, everybody.